Greetings and salutations. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. My name is AskEricMoss. I'm a personal trainer, motivational speaker, and a modern-day performing strongman. If you're unfamiliar with what a modern-day performing strongman is, picture the old-time strongmen, people like the mighty Adam and Alexander Zass. They would perform feats of strength as part of a live show. I do a similar thing, but with a modern-day twist. Some of the feats of strength I've performed live in front of an audience include things like bending steel bars, breaking chains with my chest, rolling up frying pans, twisting horseshoes, driving nails through wooden boards by hand, and even holding back a high-performance motorcycle while taking off at full throttle. Now, being a modern-day performing strongman and the fact that there's not a whole lot of us around these days to answer questions, in an effort to generate content for my YouTube channel by giving you guys what you want, I started a YouTube series called AskEricMoss, where I would invite you to ask me a question by dropping it in the comments below. And when you do that, I get back to you with your very own custom video, just for you, even if it is shared with someone else. I'm doing that to try to just kind of catch up because I've fallen kind of way behind on some of the questions, and I just wanted to be able to get it out there. So the first question comes from Ariel Gomez, and this was translated via Google, so there might be something lost in translation. But they said, "Very good your videos, Eric. When you do 6x6 isometric exercises, how much do you rest between exercises, and how much do you rest between series and series? Thank you very much." Thank you for asking that, Ariel Gomez 7345. To answer your question, what I think he is referencing is probably either the one done with the iso chain or the follow along feats of strength workout. I'm not really sure which one specifically this is in reference to, but I'll try to answer both of them. Now, as far as rest periods between sets of the same movement, I use movement in quotations because isometrics isn't really movement, right? Because you're basically pushing and pulling against immovable objects with as much of the unstoppable force as you can generate, and in essence, nothing really moves. So, most of the time, my rest periods for isometrics are around 20 seconds. That's not a hard and fast rule. That's something I lifted from the isometrics manual from Paul Wade. It just seems like a good roundabout number, and I don't always have a specific amount of rest when it comes to this. Generally speaking, with isometrics, you can kind of recover a little bit quicker than you would with standard dynamic movements because there isn't a lot of muscle damage that's happening, and there isn't a lot of leftover metabolic byproducts from this. So about 10-20 seconds later, I'm ready to go again. As for how much time I take in between a series, it kind of depends on how long it's going to take me to get set up for the next exercise. As an example, with the iso chain, it's a matter of unhooking it and then hooking it a little bit higher up. When it comes to the follow-along feats of strength workout, I would have to pick up the thing, wrap it up if it's a wrapping type thing. Decks of cards don't really need to be wrapped, neither do phone books. But horseshoes, there's a specific way of wrapping it so that I can really get a tight grip. Also a specific thing when it comes to nails and bar bends and stuff like that. So I try, when it's a follow-along timer that I'm doing, I try to leave a bit of a buffer in order to let me get myself set up for the next exercise. So I hope that answers your question. If you need additional questions, drop it in the comments below and I'll try to get back to you with your very own custom video. Now, the second question comes from Stu73KE. And they said, "Hi, Eric. I only found you recently, but I'm enjoying your videos. I was going to ask about crushing papayas, but saw that someone had asked a similar question regarding apples. So instead, What are your thoughts on Steve Justa? Thank you for asking that, Sue73KE. Pretty much the exact approach that I would use for crushing papayas, I would also use for crushing apples. So check out that video. If I think I've already answered it. I can't remember, to be honest. So as far as Steve Justa, in the strength world, Steve Justa is a legend. And when he passed away not terribly long ago, we lost a legend. Luckily for us, he published books espousing his knowledge. Now, one of the books, and someone had actually asked about this recently, was Steve Justa's Iron Isometrics. It's a thin book, and it's filled with pictures, so you could probably get through this in about an hour or so. And that's all. Some people look at that as a downfall, but I actually look at that as a good thing, because if I can get the information that I need within a short period of time, I'm more likely to be able to read or get the information, because I don't always have a lot of time in my schedule. So, as far as this book, some of the things that I like about it is that there's a lot of variety there's a lot of creativity when it comes to this stuff. Most of the exercises can be done within a power rack. Some of them he made himself, and I like his idea of like multi-direction pressure for building functional strength. But one of the things with that is that functional strength has to be taken within context of a given activity. Me pushing and pulling on various things with the power rack is only going to have a limited amount of transfer to bending steel. That's one of the reasons that I use isometrics for bending steels, because it's going to be the most closely it's going to be the most specialized thing for it. It's going to be the closest thing to bending steel without actually bending steel. Now, as for, what was I going to say with this? One of the things with this, and I think that this is something that people think I do, is far and away the most questions I get on this YouTube channel is about isometrics. And I think people might be under the impression that that's pretty much all I do. That's not. Isometrics to me is just a tool. It's a very useful tool. It's very useful for bending steel. But it's also something I also use it for. It would be like curls done in the power rack, the cardinal sin of like all gyms. They're isometric curls. And one of the reasons I like it in the power rack is just because it's so quick to set up for me. I do that because my elbows tend to complain if I'm doing a lot of repetitions for dynamic curls. But because isometrics don't have any movement, there's no joint abrasion. So my elbows don't tend to complain. And it still gives me a tremendous biceps workout. Biceps stuff does transfer over to bending steel, but it also transfers to like carrying my kids, carrying the garbage, carrying stuff, which is part of everyday life. Now, one of the things when it comes to isometrics is your blood pressure can spike, right? And there was another person that asked me this question. I'll get back to them with their own custom video. But one of the ways that I prevent myself from overexerting myself is by breathing throughout, not doing that pressurized breathing. Pressurized breathing is important when you're lifting weights to stabilize your spine, but you're not really under load when you're doing isometrics, particularly if you're doing like brace bend isometrics. You're just, your spine isn't under any pressure. So it's going to be relatively safe. But you would kind of do like a relaxed breathing, pushing with everything else in your body. Now, what was I going to say? So, on page 18 in Steve Justa's Iron Isometrics, I think it's this one. It's basically picturing like waves. This is something that I had never really heard anyone describe, but it was something that I was practicing. I used to call them surges. right? So he's one that actually kind of explains this pretty well, and he was one of the first ones, although we arrived at our own conclusions independently, but I guess great minds think alike, right? So the way I'll explain this is if you're doing like curls isometrically, right? You would put as much power as you could and you're breathing out. As you breathe back in and you breathe out again, you try to put even more power on it. Each breath trying to make the contraction stronger than it was last time. When you're doing like 12 seconds worth, that last one, wow, are you getting an amazing contraction. And that's where a lot of the strength is going to be built. So as far as my opinion of Steve Justa, you know, very knowledgeable, legend in the strength world. We lost him too early, and I don't know if that was just overdoing it with the isometrics or if he had pre-existing factors or if there was anything else involved in that. I do think, I'm pretty sure he was a smoker, at least some of the videos that I saw. I don't know how much he did, but we all know that that's not really the best thing for your health. So I do wish I could have met the guy. I never did, but it is what it is. So anyways, I hope that answers your question. If anybody else has any questions or need follow-up or anything like that, drop it in the comments below and I'll try to get back to you with your very own custom video. In the meantime, please stay happy, healthy, and strong. Eric Moss, over and out.